The first sound I remember wasn't the laughter. It was the clinking of forks stopping midair. That sharp silence right after Katrina's words landed. Either obey me or start packing. She said it like a line from a play, loud enough so the entire table of executives heard. Loud enough that even the waiter carrying creme brulee froze in the doorway. And me? I just sat there, jaw tight, pretending I didn't feel every eye on me. My hands were under the table, clutching the fabric of my pants so hard I thought I'd rip a seam. Her boss, a barrel-chested man with a gold tie clip, leaned back and chuckled. "Now that's leadership," he said. Everyone else followed with laughter, like hyenas around a carcass. I was the carcass. I tried to smile, but I felt my lips tremble. I wanted to vanish into the velvet chair, dissolve into the wine stains on the tablecloth. Instead, I raised my glass halfway, nodding like a fool, while my wife's smirk stretched wider. The humiliation didn't end there. She kept talking, spinning it into some kind of motivational parable for the room. About commanding respect in your personal life if you expect to have it in business. About never letting anyone hold you back. And then, with a glance sharp enough to cut me open, she added, "Even your own husband." More laughter. Applause. A toast in her honor. I swallowed the burn rising in my throat. Nobody noticed that I hadn't taken a sip of my drink. Nobody cared. But I did notice one thing. Richard, her colleague, the one she'd been whispering with all evening, leaned close and murmured something in her ear. She laughed, the kind of laugh she hadn't given me in years. And in that moment, between the clinking glasses and the ringing laughter, I realized something I hadn't dared admit before. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't a joke. This was her warning. And I was the only one who still believed I had a place beside her. We didn't speak on the ride home. Not one word. She played some upbeat podcast through the Bluetooth as if she hadn't just stripped me bare in front of a table full of strangers. I sat there in the passenger seat, my chest buzzing like a loose wire, staring out the window at the streetlights that blurred past. All I could hear was the echo of her voice. Either obey me or start packing. Over and over again. When we got home, she went straight upstairs without even looking at me. I lingered by the front door, still wearing the wrinkled dress shirt I had ironed with shaky hands 4 hours earlier. I thought about confronting her, demanding to know what that performance was about. But when I reached the top of the stairs, I heard her talking on the phone. Her voice wasn't angry or defensive. It was delighted. I know I shouldn't have listened, but I did. I stood in the dark hallway, just around the corner from our bedroom, holding my breath like a kid hiding from monsters. Then a low male voice, too quiet for me to catch all of it, but I did hear one thing. "So what now? You finally ready?" And her response? "Almost. Just need one last push to make him leave on his own. Saves me the paperwork." Something inside me cracked. I don't even remember walking back downstairs, but suddenly I was standing in the kitchen, staring at our wedding photo on the fridge. She looked beautiful in that picture. I looked hopeful, naive, like a man who truly believed he was being chosen. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, still in my shoes, my eyes wide open in the dark. Every time I closed them, I saw her raising that champagne glass, heard the laughter, and that awful phrase, "Just need one last push." She wanted me to break. She wanted me to give up and walk away so she could be the victim who tried, while I abandoned her. But I wasn't going to make it that easy. Not yet. I decided that night, I'd stay. I'd smile. I'd watch. Because whatever this little game was, I wasn't going to be pushed out like trash on a Monday morning. Let her make the next move. I'd be ready this time. The next morning, she was already gone before I woke up. I checked the clock, 6:32 a.m. Her car was missing from the driveway. I tried calling her once, just once, not because I needed anything, but because I wanted to hear her voice, to hear if there was even a trace of guilt in it. She didn't answer. No text. Nothing. That silence, it said more than any words could. It said, "You're not even a factor anymore." I spent most of that day pacing around the house like a ghost. The place felt unfamiliar, like I didn't belong there, like I was just squatting in someone else's life. Everywhere I looked, there were pieces of her coffee mug with lipstick residue, her shoes lined up by the door like soldiers, the eucalyptus candle she always left burning even when she wasn't home. I found myself standing in front of our bedroom door, unsure whether I wanted to walk in or walk away forever. But I went in. I told myself I was looking for a charger. I lied to myself in small ways like that, just to give myself permission. The room smelled like her shampoo, sweet and fake, like something pretending to be natural. I wandered to the closet and opened it slowly, as if I might catch a memory hiding in there. That's when I saw it. The red jacket. Not just any jacket. The jacket. The one I had asked her about 2 weeks ago when I saw a photo of her wearing it on someone's Instagram story at a rooftop bar. She told me it was an old coat she had donated months ago. She'd said it so confidently that I actually apologized for snooping. But there it was, hanging in the back, perfectly pressed, like it had been carefully returned after a night out. And under it a shoebox. Ordinary, taped at the corners. No label. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But I did. Inside was a collection of Polaroids. Not digital prints. Not selfies. Actual, old-school, instant film photos. All of them showing her with someone I'd never seen before. A man. Tall. Sharp-dressed. Always holding her waist, or her chin, or her hand. And in every single photo, she looked radiant. Like someone who had never once cried in frustration over a marriage that felt like a one-man effort. But what gutted me most wasn't the photos. It was the date written on the back of one of them, in her handwriting. A date that was seared into my brain. June 23rd. That was our anniversary. That was the night she told me she had a work dinner she couldn't miss, kissed my forehead, and left me alone at the seafood restaurant with a slice of untouched key lime pie across from an empty chair. And now I knew where she had really been. My legs gave out. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding that photo like it was radioactive. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even cry. The tears had dried up weeks ago, replaced by numbness I didn't know how to explain to anyone. How do you describe what it feels like to see your entire marriage reframed in a single snapshot? But just as I was about to put the photo back, something else caught my eye. Another envelope, thin and cream-colored, tucked into the folds of a scarf. I pulled it out with shaking hands. It was a lease agreement for a one-bedroom apartment. Signed. Dated. In her name only. Move-in date. Next month. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at it, reading the address over and over again. She wasn't planning to leave me. She already had. I just hadn't been informed yet. The strange thing is, once you see the truth, really see it, everything else just clicks into place. Like pieces of a puzzle you didn't realize you were even building. After finding that lease and those photographs, I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't leave. I didn't even cry. I did what I always did. Nothing. At least, on the surface. Because now I understood the game. I understood the performance she had been rehearsing for months. The dinner humiliation? That wasn't impulsive. It was strategic. A final push, designed to make me pack up my things and disappear, so she could walk away blameless. I'd be the problem. I'd be the quitter. I'd be the bitter ex-husband who couldn't handle her success. So I smiled. That night, when she came home late smelling like eucalyptus and something distinctly not her perfume, I greeted her with a glass of wine and a kiss on the cheek. She looked surprised, maybe even guilty, but only for a moment. "You're in a good mood," she said, kicking off her heels like she didn't have a secret apartment waiting. "I had a good day," I replied. "You look amazing, by the way." She narrowed her eyes just slightly, the way she always did when she couldn't figure out my angle. But then she shrugged and poured herself another drink. That was the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, I became the ideal husband. I cooked her favorite meals. I folded her laundry and left her car washed and waxed. I complimented her constantly. I stopped asking questions. I even left the red jacket exactly where I'd found it, didn't touch the shoebox again, and carefully slid the lease agreement back under the scarf. She never noticed. But while I played my part, I started dismantling hers, quietly, methodically. The first thing I did was set up a redirect on her laptop's email client. She'd left it logged in at the kitchen table one morning, rushed, distracted. I knew just enough about tech to set up a blind forward of her inbox to a private email I'd created 2 years ago during a freelance project I never finished. She wouldn't get any alerts. She wouldn't know. And just like that, her world started bleeding into mine. I saw every message, every calendar invite, every thread between her and the man from the photos. His name was Lucas, by the way. Real estate agent. Divorced. Apparently emotionally available, according to one message where she called me cold and unambitious. That one stung more than the cheating, honestly. Like everything I had done, Years of trying to make her life easier, softer, safer, meant nothing. But I kept my face blank, my voice calm. I listened to her stories about work, nodded when she name-dropped people she didn't respect, even laughed at her half-hearted jokes. She started letting her guard down again. That was her mistake, because I noticed things she didn't. Like how she started using her work laptop at home more often, but left her personal one open. I mirrored her hard drive, took screenshots of every relevant file, passwords, financial plans, even a draft of a letter she was planning to leave for me. Elwood, you've been kind, but we've grown apart. That sentence looped in my mind like a skipping record. Grown apart? She was tearing me in half, and she wanted to call it drifting? But I didn't stop there. I accessed her cloud drive, quietly copied contacts, traced message metadata. I even found the draft logo for the new business she was planning to launch, without me. Without a word. Just start over. New name, new man, new life. And still, every morning, I brought her coffee just the way she liked it. Dark roast, oat milk, 2 sugars, lid slightly cracked. She had no idea I knew. But that was the point. Let her laugh. Let her sip wine and plan her escape. Because I had plans too. And mine started the moment she thought she'd already won. She started to notice it on a Tuesday. It was something small. Most betrayals begin with something small, and so do most unravelings. She came downstairs wearing a navy blouse and beige skirt combo, the kind she used to save for interviews or investor calls. Her hair was tied up in that way she did when she wanted to look accidentally powerful, as she called it. She stood in front of the hallway mirror adjusting her lipstick, and I said, softly, while buttering toast, "You wore that same outfit the first time you met his parents, didn't you?" There was a pause, just half a second. Then she laughed, light and dismissive, brushing me off like I'd mixed up a memory. "Whose parents?" "Your friend Lucas." I replied, still buttering. "Didn't he take you to that vineyard house upstate? The one with the copper kitchen and that weird long driveway? With the goats?" Another pause, longer this time. Her eyes met mine in the mirror. I kept buttering the toast. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, reaching for her earrings a little too quickly. And just like that, the first hairline fracture appeared in her confidence. I didn't press it. That would have been too easy, too obvious. Instead, I let it hang there in the air like a dropped call. She left 15 minutes later without eating her breakfast. That was when I realized I could shake her. Not by yelling, not by crying, but by knowing. By letting her wonder how much I knew and when I had started knowing it. And, more importantly, what I might do with that knowledge. Over the next few days, I seeded little moments like that. Carefully, surgically, I replaced the bottle of cologne in the bathroom with one she had once mocked Lucas for wearing on a date. I changed the Spotify account password and reset her playlist titles to old inside jokes from our first year of marriage. Ones she hadn't mentioned in years. Ones she wouldn't even remember, unless she knew I was doing it on purpose. She asked about it once, half joking, half nervous. "Did you change my playlists?" I looked up from the sink, smiled gently, and said, "You really think I remember that kind of stuff?" She didn't reply, but I saw the flicker behind her eyes. Not anger, not guilt, fear. It was small, just a ripple, but it was there. I started setting my alarm earlier, waking up before her, just to watch her routine. Not in a creepy way, more like I was taking inventory. She was always precise. 10 minutes for makeup, 8 for hair, 3 for checking texts. Always texts. Always with a smirk that faded the second I looked her way. And then there was her new habit, pausing at the front door to look at herself in the reflection of the glass. Fixing her hair, tilting her chin, checking her smile. But now, she started looking behind herself, too. Like someone might be watching. She was right. Because I was watching everything. I wasn't trying to ruin her. Not yet. I wasn't even trying to stop her from leaving. No, what I wanted was much simpler, much darker. I wanted her to know that the man she thought she'd broken wasn't broken at all. He was awake, and he was learning how to become invisible. It happened on a Thursday. She came home late, again. This time, no excuse. No call. No stuck in meetings, or phone died, or just grabbing a drink with the girls. Just silence. She walked through the door past 11 p.m., heels in one hand, her hair down in a messy way she never allowed around me. Her eyeliner had smudged ever so slightly, just enough for someone who knew her, really knew her, to tell she'd been crying. Or worse, laughing so hard she teared up. With someone else. I was sitting at the kitchen island. Lights low. One lamp on. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and regret. She flinched when she saw me. "Oh, hey," she said, startled. "Didn't know you'd still be up." I looked at her. Not at her face. Not at her hair. At her phone, clutched loosely in her left hand. Still unlocked. A notification banner lit up across the screen just as she set it on the counter. "Lucas, still smiling about what you said." Your savage face with tears of joy. She didn't see me see it. But I saw it. And that changed everything. I nodded. I couldn't sleep. She poured herself a glass of water, intentionally avoiding eye contact, then leaned on the counter like nothing was wrong. "Long day," she muttered. "Oh," I asked. "Where were you?" She blinked once, twice, and said it, without hesitation. "Happy hour. Jen's birthday. We went to that Mexican place with the outdoor patio." I nodded again. Calm. Measured. Weird. "I saw Jen earlier today. She said she had food poisoning." That was the moment. The exact second. The lie crumbled in her mouth before she could even swallow it. She opened her lips, just slightly, but no words came. Just air. Her eyes darted to her phone, then back to me. I could almost see the machinery behind her eyes scrambling for a believable save. But there wasn't one. She knew it. And I knew it. She put the glass down slowly, like sudden movement might make everything worse. "Okay," she said softly. "I wasn't with Jen. But I didn't think it mattered. You've seemed distant lately." There it was. The pivot. My betrayal, somehow. I almost laughed. Truly. A deep, sharp laugh that had been boiling inside me for weeks. But I didn't. I leaned forward instead, folding my hands together like I was about to pray. "You don't have to lie anymore," I said. My voice was quiet, even. "I know about the lease. The photos. The emails. I know about Lucas. I know about the vineyard. I know about everything." She went still. Not frozen, paralyzed. Her expression didn't crumble. It simply shut down, like she'd disconnected her own humanity to process the moment. It was like watching someone get unplugged. "I was going to tell you," she whispered after what felt like hours. "No, you weren't." The silence after that was profound. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just dead. There was no coming back from it. No spin. No soft landing. The lie had slipped. The mask had cracked. And now all that remained between us was the quiet distance of two strangers who once promised forever. She finally asked, "So what now?" I stood slowly. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't threaten. I just looked her in the eye and said something she didn't expect. "I'm staying." She blinked. "What?" "I'm not leaving," I said again. "You don't get to eject me like a bad habit. You wanted to be the one who walked away clean? You wanted to trap me into making the hard choice so you could be the victim?" I shook my head. "No. I'll be here every morning. Every night. I'll sleep in this house. Eat at this table. Smile at the neighbors. I'll play my role while you try to figure out what the hell just happened. But just know one thing." I leaned in, just enough for her to smell the bitterness on my breath. "You're not the only one who can smile while lying." And with that, I walked past her. Up the stairs. Into the bedroom. She stayed in the kitchen, frozen, staring at her reflection in the dark window, as if seeing herself for the first time. Let her sit in that. Let her feel it. She wanted a reaction. A collapse. A retreat. Instead, I gave her something far worse. A mirror. The first time she flinched, it was over something stupid. A fork. I was unloading the dishwasher 2 mornings later, and I dropped a fork. It hit the tile with a loud metallic clatter, and she jumped like a gunshot had gone off behind her. I looked up just in time to catch it. The twitch in her shoulders, the way her hand went to her chest, the flash of panic in her eyes. She quickly smoothed it over with a tight smile, but I saw it. She was rattled. And that delighted something in me I didn't know existed. Not because I wanted to hurt her. No, that wasn't it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted balance. I wanted her to feel what I had felt for months. The disorientation, the waiting, the ever-present dread that something you built with love was already crumbling in the shadows while someone else laughed behind your back. The power shift was subtle at first. I didn't gloat. I didn't monologue. I simply stopped explaining myself. Stopped accounting for my time. Stopped asking questions. I came and went as I pleased. Stayed out late. Left early. Took calls in the garage with the door closed. She noticed. Of course she did. By day 4, she started testing the waters. "Where were you last night?" she asked over dinner, stabbing a piece of salmon she hadn't seasoned properly. I shrugged. Out. With who? I tilted my head. Does it matter? That silenced her. Not because I said something cruel, but because I said it with the same indifference she used to code her own excuses. She tasted her own medicine, and it didn't go down smooth. She started watching me. Not openly. Subtle glances. Checking the call logs on the home phone. Hovering outside the office when I typed. Pretending to fold laundry while listening in from the hallway. I knew every trick. She had taught me most of them by accident. But now she didn't like how it felt, not being in control. A week later, I changed the password on the Wi-Fi. Told her we'd been getting too many freeloaders. I watched her fumble with her phone, trying to reconnect, her lips tightening when she realized she had to ask me for the new code. I gave it to her without a fuss, but not before I paused just long enough to let her stew in the humiliation. She started dressing differently too, more reserved. No more daring red lipstick or expensive perfumes. She went from radiating confidence to shrinking into neutral colors, soft tones, and flat shoes. Like someone trying not to be seen. Lucas stopped texting, or maybe she stopped responding. Either way, the silence between them was deafening. But the final crack came the night she found the burner phone. It wasn't even hidden, just sitting there on the bathroom counter, right beside the guest towels. Cheap, black, prepaid, screen lit up with a locked home screen showing a new voicemail. She called out to me, her voice tight, laced with the panic she thought she could conceal. Elwood, what is this? I walked in calmly, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Glanced at the phone, picked it up. Oh, I said. Must have left it there. She stared at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I use it for freelance stuff, I added casually. Backup line. Some clients prefer it. She didn't believe me. I could see it. She was too smart for that. But she didn't call me out. She just nodded slowly and left the bathroom, but not before glancing back at me one more time. She was trying to figure out what game I was playing. But that was the beauty of it. There was no game. She had already lost. And now, all I had to do was wait for her to realize it. It didn't end with a scream. No plates were thrown. No final confession ripped out in the heat of rage. In the end, it was quiet. Peaceful even. The kind of ending that doesn't make headlines, but heals something inside you that's been bleeding for too long. I woke up that morning before sunrise. The house was still. I could hear the hum of the fridge, the soft creak of the heating vents, the faint chirping of birds just starting their day. She was still asleep beside me, her back turned, the curve of her shoulder rising and falling with every breath. And I realized I didn't hate her. I thought I would. I thought all this time, all the pain and lies and games would rot into something sharp and permanent. But it hadn't, because I had done something she hadn't expected. I had mourned her while she was still here. The love, the trust, the version of her I once knew. I buried it weeks ago, and what was left now was something simpler. Peace. I got up, showered, made coffee, and folded a single piece of paper. Not a manifesto. Not an angry letter. Just a note. Katrina, you don't owe me an apology. I see you now. All of you. And I accept that we ended long before you had the courage to say it out loud. You won't have to. I'm gone. There's no revenge coming. No twist. No messy drama. Just silence. Just distance. Just freedom. You're free to start over. So am I. Elwood. I left it on the kitchen table. My name on the outside. No key. No final conversation. I took nothing but my laptop, a backpack, and my car. The lease on her new apartment? She could have the house. I didn't want it anymore. It was filled with too many ghosts. I drove without a destination, just aimless turns until the skyline faded, and I found a small coastal motel off the highway where the air smelled like salt, and the only sound at night was the sea. I stayed there for 3 days. Then I found a small studio in a quiet town where no one knew my name. I started freelancing again, real clients this time. I took long walks, learned how to sleep through the night, stopped checking her social media. A month later, I got an email from her. No subject, no words, just an attachment, a photo of our dog, Cody, sitting by the front door, waiting. I smiled. Not bitterly, not sadly, just grateful. Then I deleted it. Because the truth is, healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. And in the silence she once tried to drown me with, I found my voice. And this time, it wasn't shaky. It wasn't begging. It wasn't filled with apologies. It was calm, certain, free.